These mosaics were detached from the site and taken to the laboratory for complete restoration. Remnants of mortar on the back of the fragments are removed with various tools. Hammer and chisels, pneumatic hammers with compressed air, fibro incisors, and even diamond-tipped saws in cases where the mosaics were laid on cement during previous detachments. The tesserae are thus prepared to be laid on new mortar that will support them as before, but the new support will also facilitate manual movement, museum display, and storage arrangements. Poor adhesion of the old canvas, the mosaic fragments are initially reassembled, one next to the other, on a layer of clay, which permits them to be read together after the traumatic events of the detachment and storage. Fragment after fragment, the clay is applied on the back and leveled. The fragments can be turned over and put together until the pavements are fully recomposed. The mosaics on clay receive the first treatment. Small gaps are filled with recovered original tesserae and new tesserae, cut from local stone to the appropriate shape and size. At this point, the mosaics are ready to be put on a new support. They are subdivided into sections, about a square meter, carefully studied to follow the lines of the decoration in order to create connections that will be invisible when the fragments are put together. The canvas still held, and we were able to consolidate the tesserae, remove residues of mortar, and cut the mosaic in smaller sections directly from the back. Once cut into pieces, the mosaics are ready to be remounted on a definitive support, composed of a beehive of aluminium and glass resin, a synthetic material that is very light but extremely resistant and stable. In the case of larger pavements, such as the mosaic of Teonoe and Achilles, 76 square meters, or that of Daedalus and Dionysius, 60 square meters, the number of fragments that will make up a single mosaic can arrive at more than 50. The other, the outlines of the fragments are drawn on the support, which is cut to the exact dimensions of the fragments themselves. The support's surface must be made rough with a layer of pozzolana granules glued to the surface to facilitate adherence of the mosaic's new setting bed. Before applying the mosaic on the new setting bed, liquid mortar is applied on the reverse side of the mosaic. This mortar will facilitate the bonding between the mosaic and the new support. The fragments are placed in the old depot, completely reorganized with simple and efficient metal shelving, freeing the laboratory space for restoring more pavements. Over the years, as the work progressed, guided visits to the laboratories were organized, and small temporary exhibitions of the most significant mosaics were held in the museum, to give the visiting public a glimpse of the work in progress and communicate the importance of the conservation of this invaluable heritage.
2 ans jour pour jour après sa découverte sur la colline de l'Ermitage, la mosaïque gallo-romaine datant de 50 avant Jésus-Christ entame la dernière ligne droite de sa restauration. Installée au musée de l'art antique depuis quelques mois, elle vient d'être découpée en 6 panneaux quasi égaux.
C'est mieux pour la manipulation, le montage et démontage de la mosaïque, sa mise en caisse aussi, si elle peut être déplacée plus facilement comme ça. Voilà. L'évidence, c'était le plus simple et le plus régulier. En plus, ça suit des découpes qui sont nettes dans le décor, ça pose pas de problème.
Et les grandes lacunes grâce à un mortier semblable au mortier antique. Le retour à Alès est toujours prévu pour le printemps 2011. Seul le lieu d'exposition n'a pas encore été défini.
Bula Regia, a Roman and Byzantine-era site in northwest Tunisia, famed for its underground villas. The Getty Conservation Institute, in collaboration with World Monuments Fund and the Institut National de Patrimoine of Tunisia, is leading a model field project. The conservation plan for the site will serve as a replicable model of best practice for similar sites in the region.
L'IG, c'est le projet pilote puisque le site de Bela-Ligia renferme plus que 300 mosaïques in situ. On est en train d'élaborer un projet global pour le site avec une composante fondamentale qui sont les mosaïques in situ, et dans le cadre d'un projet de gestion et d'un plan d'action global pour définir aussi bien des actions de mise en valeur que de présentation pour le site.
The images on many mosaics actually play with the idea of their position related to the architecture. So a floor may have things spread out on the floor. For example, in this mosaic, a basket has tilted over and the fish are spilling out onto the floor. Of course, the problem is once the mosaic is lifted and hung on the wall of a museum, the fish either fly up into the air or swim across the wall. So the image itself has changed. The intent of the image has changed. Lifting mosaics from archaeological sites, that is, removing them from their original context, the original place that they were installed and manufactured, has been going on for a very, very long time. And it's had good effects and it's had disastrous effects at the same time. However, they lost their context. They lost the place they belonged to. They're no longer part of a building. They're no longer a floor of a building. They're now more like works of art on the wall of the museum itself, framed like a painting, but have lost all of that aspect of being part of the building.
In the same way that a mosaic hung on a museum wall no longer tells a complete story, an archaeological site from which the mosaics have been lifted is also incomplete. The unique relationship between the mosaics and the architecture is lost. Figurative mosaics, with their rich visual narratives, were especially valued and were frequently removed and taken to museums or put in storage for safekeeping. What is generally left at archaeological sites in Tunisia today are geometric or floral mosaics.
In more recent decades, there's been a change of approach favoring in situ conservation, which means it's simply conserving mosaics in their architectural context within the site itself.
National de Patrimoine of Tunisia joined with the Getty Conservation Institute to create a program to save the nation's mosaics at archaeological sites from further deterioration. A hands-on training project is helping to create groups of regional mosaic technicians who can address the basic maintenance and stabilization needs of in situ mosaics.
The training that we've been carrying out here in Tunisia since 1998 has already had quite an impact on several sites. Mosaics that were completely invisible because they were covered with microorganisms such as lichens, algae, and moss are now visible again. In carrying out our mortar repairs on mosaics, we do pay attention to the aesthetic aspect of the work by using gravels similar in color to the stone tessera found in the mosaic, and in the mortars used for filling areas of loss. The work becomes less evident and you see the mosaic rather than the repair material.